Hey guys, Ray from LoveYRV. So another lithium battery review for you. This one is an example of one of the cheaper end ones on the market. This particular model goes for around $480. It's put out by a company called DFUN, and they're part of, I looked it up online, DFUNenergy.com. They seem to be a company that makes a lot of battery monitors for large arrays of lithium batteries. So the guy, one of their reps, has been after me to review their battery for quite a while, and one thing I noticed right away is it almost looks like a total knockoff of the SOK battery that I reviewed a while back, maybe a year or so. I reviewed and ended up giving it away to one of my subscribers. And at that time I really liked the SOK battery, and over the years it has proved to be one that a lot of reviewers like, mainly because it's a metal case and easy to take apart and service yourself. So I figured this would be just a knockoff of it, but the guy assures me that it's not a knockoff and they make it themselves. So he said, I'll even send one out so you can take it apart and see for yourself. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do a teardown test of this battery, and then we're going to do some charge and discharge tests, maybe a low temperature test, the usual stuff that I do for a lithium battery review. But I thought people looking for a more inexpensive battery may be interested in one. A lot of them are pretty cheesy looking, but this one being so much like the SOK, I thought it'd be worth getting a look at for you. So let's tear into this and see how it's built. Looks like it came with some rubber covers. Exactly the same terminals pretty well that the SOK uses, which I liked. They're a very nice terminal. Although it looks like this one has kind of a stand-up on the side here, so it might be harder to put large lugs in there. Probably end up going to have to take those off, cut them off for when I hook it up to my system, because I have some actual 2-aught battery cable lugs. So you can see the issue with the terminals and a larger lug, getting it to fit, but it's easily solved with a pair of pliers like this. Goodbye. Goodbye. There we go. So construction is very much like the SOK, other than the case has rounded corners, but the batteries seem to be held in a similar way. Clamped down, all metal. Sort of the same leads. These are 7-gauge, kind of a nice rubbery, soft rubbery coating on them. Same sort of terminals. I like these terminals. BMS looks a bit different. And looks like we have 2 temperature sensor wires right here and here. And then they're attached here and here. So I guess that way they can monitor all the cells. And then the other wires are for the balancing leads from the BMS. So maybe we'll dig into this a bit more. I'll undo everything and we'll pull off the BMS and have a good look at it, and then pull out the cells and have a good look at them. So yeah, the best part about this design of batteries is how easily an end user can take everything apart and replace things. Now, there also is a risk as an end user. You know, you can cause problems, damage things, but if something did need to be replaced, like say you had a bad board here, it's easy to disassemble the battery. Other types of batteries, they come in sealed plastic boxes and you almost have to basically saw them apart to get into them, so they're not really serviceable. Where the SOK and this seem completely serviceable and rather easy to do with just a screwdriver. Pulled the BMS off, and it does seem a little bit lightweight. It's my first impression, especially compared to, I just reviewed a battery from AO Lithium and they had a huge aluminum heatsink on it, whereas this thing's just got a very small aluminum heatsink. At first I thought, because it was mounted to the lid on this metal plate, I thought they were using the whole case as a heatsink, but really it was just attached to that little standoff, so there really wouldn't be any heat transfer. And then this has standoffs there too, so they weren't really utilizing the case, so a little bit skimpy as far as I can see. Let me pull that plastic back off and we'll see if we can see any numbers on that. Here's the back of it. I kind of tried to do a search for that number, didn't end up finding anything. And the front has a couple numbers. One right there, and a sticker right there. 4 strings, so you can do 4 in series, 100 amp. There's where the temperature sensors went in. There's another plug in here, and that looks like it says BT, so Bluetooth. They do sell one that comes with Bluetooth. I think it's like an extra $20. So this board is capable of doing Bluetooth, but I asked the guy, he said he could sell the board, but he said don't plug any other modules in there, you could ruin the BMS. Anyway, let's pull the cells, see what they look like. Another thing I noticed, all the screws appear to be stainless. They didn't react to my magnetic screwdrivers, so they have no magnetism, so I assume they're all stainless. Hardware looks all pretty good, like I say, metal case, and I really like these connections here. Jumper plates appear to be copper. I scraped it, I could see some copper underneath with a nickel plating. And 4 screws gets that out of the case. On the bottom there's some foam, and then this top part has a layer of foam as well. And then your nice pack here put together. Let's see a close up, see if we can see what that tags. 100 amp hours. See if I can find that number there. So I was able to find the battery manufacturer using the number off the QR code there, and there's this code checker that you can check LiFePO cells here. So we did a check. Manufacturer GangFin, battery cell 100 amp hours, 3.2 volts, and it shows a production date of April of 2022. So obviously these aren't old, used, worn cells or anything, and they appear to be grade A cells. The manufacturer website here looks like they've been around for a long time, 20 years. So they look like one of the larger the companies making lithium products there. GangFin Lithium. And then I was even able to find the product specification sheet, and the model part number here matches the part number on the cell itself. So I guess they're using pretty good lithium cells in this cheaper battery. So 4 more screws, and that comes apart very easily. They've used the same kind of black foam material to insulate all the cells. They'll look brand new to me. I don't see any obvious signs that these were used cells or anything like that. Anyway, I really like that design, how easy this whole thing comes apart. Very serviceable. Okay, all back together. Went very smoothly, very easy to do. Of all the screws I took out and put back in, I found that one of them had a bit of a strip from the factory and one was loose. Other than that, all the screws were tight and went in and out very easily. So overall, pretty good design. Like I say, very similar to the SOK, which I really like their construction. Any negative things? I think the BMS looks a bit lightweight to me. Probably how they keep the price down, because you know it's going for sub $500, and a lot of the other ones are much more expensive. The AO Lithium goes, I think, $599, but it has a much bigger heat sink. My Lion Energy batteries that I've used, it has a lot bigger heat sink as well, so probably a little more of a stout BMS. These look a little bit thin. I guess they work fine though. They're just going across there. Some of the more high-end batteries sometimes will laser weld the bus bars right to the cells, but that can be a hassle if you ever do need to change a cell. It's kind of a choice they make, but I guess the laser welding makes a little better connection than a screw. But on the flip side, this comes apart very easily, so you can always take it apart and make sure everything is nice and tight. So anyway, let's get to testing this battery. I'm going to hook it up and we'll do some discharge tests and charge tests on it, and maybe we'll take out my freezer and do a low temperature cutoff test, make sure that these sensors are working. Okay, let's do some charging and discharging tests. We'll check the max discharge rate and the max charge rate. Let's go with discharge first. So I got a battery hooked up, multimeter, amp meter. It's going to go into an inverter, and then I'm going to use my EcoFlow Delta Max box to adjust the discharge rate. I can go with 100 watt increments, and we'll slowly bring it up. The battery states it should build a 100 amp discharge rate and 75 amp charge rate. Okay, so you can see it's drawing 0.8 amps. That's just the inverter. So we'll plug in my load here. We'll go up to 700 watts. There we go. So we're drawing about 60 amps right now. Raise it up a bit. .73 amps, 12.5 volts on the battery terminals. The fan you hear is my inverter. So 1,000 watts. There we go, 96 amps, 12.3 on the terminals. So it seems to be handling its max discharge rate. Let's go above it now and see what happens. .120 amps. Seems to be dealing with that. Go up a little higher. .150 amps. So I set it up again at 120 amps. I'm just curious if this battery is going to BMS is going to shut this off or not, so we'll just let it go here. Okay, so that's been about 3 minutes now, and it's still running at 123 amps, which I don't think is very good actually, because the cells in there are rated for 100 amps discharge rate, so it doesn't seem like the shutdown is working properly. I'm going to go a little higher. 150 amps. Really, that battery should be going into protection mode for charge rate, and it's not. We're up around 4 minutes now. Just going to shut her down. Okay, just to double check that discharge, they actually sent me 2 of their batteries, so I've got the second one hooked up, and it's been running several minutes at 125 amps. So obviously that 100 amp max is not disconnecting the battery, which allows the cells to run at a higher rate than they're set for. So I inquired with DFUN about the high discharge rate, and they sent me this updated spec sheet from Ganfeng, and it does say maximum discharge current continuous 1.5 C, which would be around 150 amps. So they tell me that they set their BMS at 160 to disengage after 10 seconds of time. So that's why I was able to see above 100 amps when I was doing my discharge test. Okay, charge test. We'll check for max charging. We'll see, I think the spec on the battery is 75 amps, so it shouldn't be able to charge beyond that. So I have some solar charging going on. I'm going to add in a converter charger. There we go. Right around 77, 76. Nothing shutting down yet. Okay, I did get it to shut down. You can see over on the right 66 amps. Going to plug in my second charger. So we got 41, 46, got 87 amps going in there right now. There, click, it shut down. So the actual charging, max charging shutdown is working. Next, I'm going to test the low temperature disconnect. Now, lithium batteries don't like to be charged below about 32 Fahrenheit, 0 Celsius. So I've put the battery in my freezer here, and I'm at 0 Fahrenheit, about minus 18 Celsius. So I got a charger here and also an inverter. Now it should be able to discharge, but it shouldn't charge. I think these batteries can discharge down to about I think minus or 4 Fahrenheit. I think probably about minus 20 Celsius. So we'll pull this out, hook it up, and give her a test, make sure that low temperature charging disconnect is actually working. Here we go, hooked up. So it's showing 13.3 volts, no current. So I'm going to plug this charger in now. See what happens. No current, so it's not charging at all. Bumped up the voltage from the charger, 14.5, that's what's coming out of the charger. But we have 0 current, so it is in fact in cutoff. Unplug this and check discharge here. No problem. 56 amps. $88. So no problem. One thing I did notice is it woke up and started charging and discharging, but it did it at a much lower rate, so it seems to wake up and doesn't switch to its full charge and discharge ability. Kind of comes in between, so I guess that's the function of the battery management system. Anyway, I'll give it a pass for its low temperature cutoff. Next I'm going to test the overall capacity of it. So the spec says it can run for 300 minutes at 20 amps discharge rate. So I'm going to set that up pretty close to that and just use my EcoFlow box there, set it to 200 watts, power it with an inverter, and it'll draw it out of the battery. I'm going to have a battery monitor here so I can check out the amp hour usage. Anyway, let's turn this on. Let's see what we're amps here. Should draw around 17, 18 amps, I imagine. Yeah, there we are, 16. So I'm just going to let that go. It's going to take probably 5 or 6 hours, and then we'll see if we can get 100 amp hours out of it. Or also see how long it runs at that rate. Stay tuned. So checking in about the 3-hour mark. Still 17 amps. So we're about halfway, 50 amp hours, 50.3%. We'll keep her going. Okay, checking in at the 300-minute mark, 5 hours later, still drawing 17 amps. Voltage on the terminals of the battery are 12.56, and it says 14, a little over 14 amp hours left, 14.5%. So we'll let it go. See if we can get the 100 amp hours out of it. Okay, so we're down to 6%. Had to switch my load a bit. I'm just drawing about 7 amps now. Just plugged a fridge in and a little fan, because I was starting to get a little too low with voltage drop through my wiring, so the inverter was complaining a bit. We still have lots of voltage on the battery itself, so there was quite a bit of voltage drop on the wiring. I actually ordered a new battery monitor from Amazon, but they lost it in shipping, so I'm kind of stuck using this old one. So in the future I'll have a little better setup. Anyway, we'll just do a little less load and try to eke out the last percentage here. We're down to 5.9% of the 100 amp hours. Usually what happens with lithium batteries, once they get down under about 10% left, the voltage starts to drop and roll off, so it's not really that much of a useful percentage. At the end you won't be able to draw very heavy loads off of it, but usually it's enough to run some small items like fridge and a little fan. So here's a quick look at a typical discharge curve. You can see the voltage. This is just one cell, so the 3 would be 4 together would be 12. So let's take the 12 volt line, and then these are different charge rates. 2C would be 200 amps, 1C at 100 amps, and then 30 amps and so on. So the lower the amperage, the longer it's going to stay up in voltage. So you can see the 12 volt. Once you get past 80%, if you're pulling the full rate of 100 amps, you're going to drop in voltage quite quickly, but then as you lower your amperage, then you last longer and longer. That's why I was able to lower my amperage and end up with the full 100%. So really on heavy loads down here, it's not going to work very well, but you can see anywhere up here it's pretty flat, so it's going to be able to draw a lot of heavy loads. Okay, made it down to 1% left out of 100 amp hours. Still drawing 5 amps here. Battery is just fallen under 12 volts now. You can see 1 amp hour left. So I think it's actually going to make it. Okay, here we go, here we go. Eked out 100 amp hours. Still going too, although the voltage is falling quite a bit. Anyway, it's good to know. Well, there you go. That's the DFUN 100 amp hour lithium battery. So I'll give you my final kind of pros and cons as I see them. Price point is good, $480 US for that, or you can get for $499, you can get the Bluetooth version. It comes with an 8-year warranty, not too bad. Says 4,000 life cycles to 80% capacity. I like the metal case that it has and the metal battery brackets, and also that it can be easily disassembled. That's really nice. So you can go in there and check you got all the things they say you got in there as far as cells and stuff. It has nice terminal connections, and what I found was grade A, good quality lithium cells, and also has the low temperature protection. If I have any cons about it, it is rather heavy, about 33 pounds. I guess because you know all that metal in the case versus other ones that are come in the low 20-pound range. And like I say, I found the BMS, the heatsink was kind of skimpy on it, just in my mind. Maybe it performs fine, I don't know. But I'd like to see a little bit better heatsink myself. Also, it's a new battery to the market. This DFUN seems to be a company that has been around for a while making battery monitors, but I think this is a new product for them. So, you know, not much of a track record there. Anyway, I hope you found that informative. Thanks for watching. Till next time, Ray from Love Your RV. Cheers, everyone.